Dreams happen primarily during a stage of sleep called REM sleep. Your eyes, closed beneath their lids flicker in the darkness, as though watching a film that only you can see. And here is the wonder. Scientists found that the brain during this state is not quiet at all. It is alive, buzzing, almost indistinguishable from a waking brain. Even as the world goes dark and still around you, your brain is building worlds painting images writing stories, using only the quiet electricity of thought. The most relaxing facts about dreams and memory. Welcome into the night. Tonight, as you settle in and allow your body to find its most comfortable, most natural resting place, we are going to wander very gently, very quietly, into one of the most mysterious and beautiful landscapes that exists in all of nature. And that landscape is the sleeping mind. There is no need to do anything right now. No need to think. No need to hold on to the day that has just passed. You have already done enough. You have already been enough. And now, in this calm and darkened space, whether you are lying beneath soft blankets or resting your head against a cool pillow, you are invited simply to listen. Let your shoulders fall just a little. Let your jaw soften. Let your breath come and go as naturally and as gently as the tide moving against a quiet shore. In the dark, in the deep, in the still, we are going to explore tonight the most relaxing and most wondrous facts about two of the most intimate things your mind does every single night, dreams or in memory. Hey Slomo, these two quiet companions of sleep, one weaving stories in the darkness, the other carefully tending to everything you have ever learned and felt and known, are working together right now as you begin to drift in ways that scientists are only just beginning to understand, and in ways that are, quite honestly, deeply, peacefully, beautifully remarkable. So let us begin softly, without rush, wandering into the gentle science of what your mind does while you sleep, and allowing every word to carry you just a little deeper into rest. The architecture of a dream every single night, without any effort on your part, without any planning or preparation or conscious intention. Your brain enters a state so extraordinary that for centuries, human beings believed it to be the work of gods or spirits or forces beyond the natural world. And in a way, even now, with all our science, it still feels that way. Because the state we are speaking of is the dream. Dreams happen primarily during a stage of sleep called REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement. And already, just from those three words, you can sense something interesting, something that speaks of quiet activity beneath still surface. Your eyes, closed beneath their lids, move. They shift and flicker in the darkness, as though watching a film that only you can see, as though following something that moves through the private landscape of your sleeping mind. REM sleep was first discovered in 1953 by a researcher named Eugene Aserinsky and his mentor Nathaniel Kleitman at the University of Chicago. Aserinsky noticed, while observing a sleeping child, that the eyes were moving beneath closed lids, and he connected this flickering movement to the electrical signals of the brain and found, to his astonishment, that the brain during this state was not quiet at all, not resting in the way one might expect, but alive, buzzing, almost indistinguishable from a waking brain in its activity. Isn't that a gentle and wonderful thought, OBRE8AA? That even as you sleep, even as the world goes dark and still around you your brain is not gone, not absent, not simply waiting for morning. It is alive with a different kind of living, building worlds, painting images, writing stories, without a pen, without a screen, without any tool at all, using only the quiet electricity of thought. The average adult experiences REM sleep in cycles throughout the night. Each cycle lasts roughly 90 minutes, and within each cycle, the period of REM sleep grows a little longer. So in the early hours of the night, when you first fall asleep, your dreams may be brief and soft and barely formed, like the very first light of dawn, which is only a suggestion of brightness at the edge of the horizon. But as the hours pass and the night deepens and then slowly begins to lighten, your REM periods grow longer, richer, more vivid, until, in the final hours before waking, your dreams may stretch for 20, 30, even 45 minutes of continuous, flowing, story-like experience. This is why, if you have ever been woken by an alarm in the early morning, you may find yourself surfacing from a dream so detailed, so emotionally real, so fully formed that for a moment you are not entirely sure which world is the true one, the waking one, with its light and its sounds and its familiar shape, or the one you have just left behind, which felt, perhaps, equally real, equally solid, equally inhabited. Let your breath slow just a little more. KSLWO, you are already, even now, perhaps beginning to soften at the edges, beginning to feel that pleasant, the gentle heaviness that comes before sleep. And that is exactly where we want to be. Why we forget our dreams. Here is something that nearly every human being has experienced, and that is both mysterious and, in its own quiet way, rather comforting. You wake from a dream that felt enormous, vivid, emotionally complete. A dream filled with people you recognize or people you have never met. Places that felt familiar, even though you have never been there. Feelings that were real and present and urgent. And then, within moments of opening your eyes, it begins to slip away, like sand running through fingers, like mist lifting from a valley in the morning sun. And within 10 minutes, it may be entirely gone. Why does this happen? Hutch. Why? If the dream was so real, so fully experienced, does it vanish so completely and so quickly upon waking? The answer, or at least the answer that neuroscience currently offers us, is deeply woven into the chemistry of the sleeping brain. During REM sleep, a neurotransmitter called norepinephrine, which plays an essential role in memory formation in the waking brain, is almost entirely absent. The brainstem during REM sleep essentially turns off the production of this chemical, and without it, the encoding of memories, the process by which experiences are transformed into lasting records, is severely reduced. Dreams are experienced, but not recorded. They happen, but leave no firm footprint. There is also the matter of the prefrontal cortex, that part of the brain responsible for logical thinking, self-awareness, and the kind of deliberate attention that we use when we want to remember something. During REM sleep, the prefrontal cortex is significantly less active than it is when we are awake. It is, in a sense, resting, taking a gentle step back, and allowing other, older, more instinctive parts of the brain to take the stage. And without the prefrontal cortex fully engaged, the process of saying quietly to oneself, "I want to remember this," that process simply cannot happen. And yet, not all dreams are entirely lost. We do sometimes remember them, particularly if we wake directly from REM sleep. If the transition from dreaming to waking is abrupt, rather than drifting through the lighter stages of sleep first. In those moments of sudden surfacing, the dream may still be present, fully formed, at the very edge of consciousness. And if, in that moment, we write it down, or speak it aloud, or simply hold it very deliberately in our attention, it may be preserved, at least in part, before the quiet chemistry of morning dissolves it. There is also the matter of the prefrontal cortex, that part of the brain responsible for logical thinking, self-awareness, and the kind of deliberate attention that we use when we want to remember something. During REM sleep, the prefrontal cortex is significantly less active than it is when we are awake. It is, in a sense, resting, taking a gentle step back, and allowing other, older, more instinctive parts of the brain to take the stage, and without the prefrontal cortex fully engaged. The process of saying quietly to oneself, "I want to remember this." That process simply cannot happen. And yet, not all dreams are entirely lost. We do sometimes remember them, particularly if we wake directly from REM sleep. If the transition from dreaming to waking is abrupt, rather than drifting through the lighter stages, asleep first. In those moments of sudden surfacing, the dream may still be present, fully formed, at the very edge of consciousness. And if, in that moment, we write it down, or speak it aloud, or simply hold it very deliberately in our attention, it may be preserved, at least in part, before the quiet chemistry of morning dissolves it. Dream journaling. The simple practice of keeping a notebook beside the bed and writing down whatever fragments of dream remain upon waking has been shown to gradually improve dream recall over time. Not because it changes the dreams themselves, but because it trains the mind to pay attention to that liminal moment between sleeping and waking, to reach back gently before the night fades entirely away. There is something rather lovely about the idea that dreams are, by their very nature, ephemeral, that they are not meant to be held, not meant to be captured and kept and analyzed and stored away, but simply lived fully and freely in the private darkness of sleep and then released, like breath into cold air, like the last note of a song fading into silence. Hey-so, and perhaps that is enough. Perhaps there is something peaceful in not needing to hold on, in knowing that whatever your dreaming mind creates tonight, however beautiful or strange or vast, it will carry you gently through the hours of darkness, even if it leaves no trace by morning. Memory consolidation, the night's hidden work, while you sleep, while you lie in this quiet, dark resting place, something extraordinary is happening inside your brain, something that requires no effort from you whatsoever, something that happens without your instruction, without your participation, without even your awareness. Your brain is sorting through the entire day that has just ended and deciding what to keep. This process is called memory consolidation, and it is one of the most elegant and important things that sleep does for us. During waking hours, as we move through our days, having conversations, learning new things, experiencing emotions, navigating the countless small and large events that make up a human life. The brain is continuously receiving information, more information, in fact, than it could ever possibly store in its long-term memory. And so, during sleep, it does something remarkable. It reviews the hippocampus, a small, curved structure deep within the brain, named for its resemblance to a seahorse, plays a central role in this process. During the day, the hippocampus acts as a kind of temporary holding space for new memories. It receives experiences, holds them briefly, and begins the initial process of encoding. But the hippocampus has limited capacity. It was not designed to be a permanent storage facility. It is more like an inbox, a place where things arrive before being sorted and filed away. During sleep, particularly during the slow, deep stages of non-REM sleep that occur in the early part of the night, the hippocampus begins to replay the day's experiences, not randomly and not in real time, but in compressed, rapid bursts of neural activity that neuroscientists call sharp wave ripples. These ripples, which last only a fraction of a second each, carry the day's memories from the hippocampus to the cortex, where they are gradually woven into the vast, interconnected fabric of long-term memory. Imagine, if you will, a great library. In this library, there are countless rooms, and in each room, there are shelves upon shelves of books. Everything you have ever learned, everything you have ever felt, every face you have ever recognized, every word you have ever understood. And every night, while you sleep, a very quiet and very diligent librarian moves through this library, carrying the new arrivals, the experiences of today, and finding exactly the right shelf, the right section, the right place for each one to rest, connecting it to the books already there, noticing the patterns, the resonances, the links between this new thing and all the old things it reminds her of. And when you wake in the morning, the library is a little richer than it was the night before. A little more organized, a little more complete. Not because you did anything, but because sleep did it for you. Sleep deprivation. Even a single night of significantly reduced sleep has been shown to impair this consolidation process measurably. Studies have found that people who sleep after learning something new remember it significantly better than people who stay awake. In one famous study, participants who learned a complex motor skill, like a piano sequence, showed marked improvement after a night of sleep, even without any additional practice at all. The improvement came not from practicing more, but simply from sleeping. This is why when you are trying to learn something new, to understand something difficult, to absorb something complex. One of the most genuinely effective things you can do is also one of the most gentle and most natural. Sleep. Simply sleep. And let your brain do the rest. The same process that consolidates explicit memories, facts, events, things you can consciously recall, also works on something deeper and less visible. Emotional memory. During sleep, the brain processes not just what happened, but how it felt, and there is evidence that, during REM sleep in particular, the emotional charge of memories is gradually reduced, or the events of the day are preserved, but their emotional intensity is softened, which may be part of why things that felt enormous and overwhelming in the evening often feel a little smaller, a little more manageable in the morning light. Sleep is not merely rest. It is restoration. It is the quiet, patient, deeply intelligent work that your brain does when the world goes still. And it is happening right now, or will be very soon, as you allow yourself to drift toward the gentle edge of unconsciousness. With them a quality of stillness that is, to those who study the brain, almost breathtaking. During slow wave sleep, the body is at its most deeply resting. Your heart rate slows to its lowest point of the night. Your breathing becomes regular and deep awe. For your muscles are relaxed in a way that is almost impossible to achieve consciously when awake. Your blood pressure drops. Your temperature lowers just slightly. The entire organism, all of you, settles into a state of such profound quietness that, if you were watching your own brain activity from the outside, you might almost mistake it for stillness. But it is not stillness. It is something far more purposeful and far more generous. During slow wave sleep, the pituitary gland releases the majority of its daily quota of human growth hormone, the chemical that drives tissue repair, muscle growth, immune function, and cellular regeneration throughout the body. This is the time when your muscles recover from the exertions of the day. When small injuries begin to heal, when the immune system strengthens and consolidates its defenses, or when the body tends to itself with a patience and a thoroughness that no waking activity could replicate. The glymphatic system, a network of channels that surrounds the brain's blood vessels, becomes dramatically more active during deep sleep, opening up to allow cerebrospinal fluid to flow through the brain at a rate significantly higher than during waking, washing away metabolic waste products that accumulate during the day, including proteins associated with neurological decline. It is, in the most literal and beautiful sense, the brain cleaning itself, bathing itself in its own quiet, restorative tide. Children and young people experience the largest amounts of slow wave sleep, which makes perfect sense when you consider that growth, development, and learning are at their most intense during those years. As we age, the proportion of slow wave sleep we experience gradually decreases, which is one of the reasons that the quality of sleep changes across a lifetime. But even in adulthood, even in old age, the slow wave remains. Quieter, perhaps, than in youth, but still present, still working, still offering its gifts to the resting body and mind. There is a peculiar feature of slow wave sleep that many people find reassuring, even comforting. It is extremely difficult to wake someone from it. If you are in deep sleep and someone tries to rouse you, you will likely be confused, disoriented, barely able to open your eyes or form coherent sentences. This state, called sleep inertia, is often what we experience when we are woken abruptly by an alarm before our natural sleep cycle is complete. That heavy, foggy, this is not right feeling that lingers for minutes or even longer after waking. It is the brain, still partially in its slow wave state, reluctant to leave the deep place it has gone to. And perhaps there is a lesson in that reluctance. Or perhaps the deep brain knows something the waking mind sometimes forgets. That the slow place is precious, that the quiet is worth protecting, that the body and mind deserve every night to descend into this soft and restorative darkness and rest there for as long as they need. So, as you lie here now, breathing quietly, letting go of the day, know that your brain is preparing to do exactly this. It is preparing to descend, to slow, to enter that vast, gentle, cleansing silence, and do for you tonight what it has done every night of your life. Take care of you completely without being asked. The mystery of lucid dreaming. There is a phenomenon that sits at the boundary between dreaming and waking, a state of consciousness that is, when it occurs, unlike almost anything else in the range of human experience. It is called lucid dreaming, and it is the extraordinary experience of becoming aware, while dreaming, that you are dreaming. In a lucid dream, the dreamer realizes, sometimes gradually, sometimes with a sudden inner flash of recognition, that the world they are experiencing is not the waking world, that the people around them are dream figures, that the landscape is constructed by the sleeping mind, that the rules of the waking world, gravity, time, physical limitation, do not necessarily apply here, and with that realization comes, for some, the possibility of something remarkable, the ability to influence, to shape, to consciously participate in the dream itself. Lucid dreaming has been documented and discussed for thousands of years. Aristotle, writing in the 4th century BCE, who made what may be one of the earliest recorded observations of the phenomenon. Often, when one is asleep, there is something in consciousness which declares that what then presents itself is but a dream. Tibetan Buddhist monks developed a practice called dream yoga more than 1,000 years ago, which involves maintaining awareness through all states of sleep, including the dream state, as a form of spiritual practice and a preparation for the moment of death. In the modern era, the scientific study of lucid dreaming was placed on firm footing by a researcher at Stanford University named Stephen LaBerge, who in the 1970s and 80s devised a remarkable method for proving that lucid dreaming was a real and verifiable phenomenon rather than a product of imagination or false memory. Participants in his studies would signal using pre-agreed patterns of deliberate eye movements at the moment they realized they were dreaming, communicating across the boundary between sleep and waking in a way that could be observed and recorded by researchers watching their brain activity in real time. Responsible for. The signal would appear on the EEG recording a distinct pattern of eye movements, responsible for, exactly as agreed, emerging from within the REM stage of sleep, responsible for proof that the dreamer was simultaneously dreaming, their brain showing all the signatures of REM sleep, and consciously aware, responsible for. These experiments confirmed what many had long suspected, responsible for, that lucid dreaming is not a brief interruption of sleep, not a moment of semi-waking, responsible for, but a genuine state of consciousness in its own right. A state in which dreaming and self-awareness coexist, responsible for, quietly and strangely, in the same brain at the same time. During a lucid dream, brain imaging studies have shown that the prefrontal cortex, the region that is so quiet and withdrawn during ordinary dreaming, becomes more active than in regular REM sleep, responsible for, almost, but not quite, as active as during waking, responsible for. It is as if a single lamp has been lit in a darkened house, responsible for. Not enough to illuminate everything, responsible for, but enough to allow the dreamer to move with awareness through the rooms of the dream. Some people experience lucid dreaming naturally and spontaneously. Others report it happening only once or twice in a lifetime, while still others practice techniques designed to induce it deliberately. Techniques that involve building habits of reality, checking throughout the day, setting gentle alarms during the night to enter the dream state from a brief waking, or training the mind to recognize the particular quality of dreamness that distinguishes the dream world from the waking one. What is it like to know you are dreaming while the dream is happening? Hey SLO boo. Those who experience it often describe a quality of presence that is difficult to put into words. A luminosity, a vividness, a sense of extraordinary freedom, combined, sometimes, with a strange tenderness toward the dream world itself, which is, when seen clearly from the inside, with full awareness, somehow even more beautiful than when it was being dreamed unquestioningly. And there is something quietly moving about this idea. That awareness, even when turned gently upon our own inner world, our own sleeping mind, does not diminish the wonder, but deepens it. That knowing this is a dream does not make the dream less real, less beautiful, less worth experiencing, but more so, as if consciousness itself is a gift that makes everything it touches just a little more luminous. The brain in REM, Sen, a landscape of quiet fire. Let us stay for a moment in REM sleep, in that remarkable state where dreaming lives, and look very gently and very slowly at what is actually happening inside the brain during this time, because what is happening is, even when described in the dry language of neuroscience, genuinely almost impossibly beautiful. The first thing to understand is that the dreaming brain is not a quiet brain. It is, in many ways, a very active brain. Perhaps the most complexly active state the brain ever enters. The visual cortex at the back of the skull, responsible for processing what we see, is highly active during REM sleep, even in the complete absence of any light or visual input. It is generating images from within, conjuring light and color and form and movement out of pure neural activity. 4. The way a painter might conjure a landscape from nothing but memory and imagination and the movement of a brush. The limbic system, the deep, ancient part of the brain responsible for emotion, is also extraordinarily active during REM sleep, particularly the amygdala, which processes fear, excitement, love, grief, wonder, and all the other great tides of feeling that move through a human life. This is why dreams are so often emotionally vivid, why they carry within them a quality of feeling that can be overwhelming in its reality, its specificity, its presence, because the emotion centers of the brain are fully, openly, richly engaged. There is one set of muscles that is notably exempt from this general paralysis during REM sleep, and those muscles, of course, are the muscles of the eye's whorl. Those small, rapid, flickering movements, the rapid eye movements that give the sleep stage its name, are real physical movements occurring in real time, and they are linked, though the precise nature of the link is still debated, to the visual experience of the dream. Some researchers have proposed that the eyes are literally following the imagery of the dream, tracking movements within the inner visual field in the same way they would track movements in the waking world, scanning the landscape of the dream, following a dream figure across a dream room, watching something approach from the dream distance. If this is true, and it is not yet definitively proven, then there is something extraordinarily moving about it. Your sleeping eyes, behind their closed lids, following a landscape that only you can see, watching a world that exists nowhere else in the universe but inside your own mind, moving with genuine engagement and genuine responsiveness to a reality that is entirely, uniquely, privately yours. High SLOU. And as you drift further now, as the sounds of the waking world grow softer and more distant, know that somewhere, in the quiet hours ahead, your own eyes will begin to move, following their own quiet path through their own private landscape, dreaming you gently through the night. The sleeping brain's secret language Ooh. Neural oscillations. The brain speaks in electricity, KSOW, not in the sudden, jagged kind, not the lightning, bolt electricity of storms, but in something far more like music, in rhythms, in waves, in patterns of oscillation that repeat and shift and layer upon each other in ways that are, when you really stop to consider them, as complex and as beautiful as any symphony ever written. These electrical patterns, called neural oscillations or brain waves, can be measured by placing tiny sensors on the scalp, sensors that detect the faint electromagnetic fields generated by the synchronized firing of millions of neurons working together. And when you look at the patterns they produce, the peaks and valleys of electrical activity flowing across time, you see something that looks almost organic, something that breathes. When we are awake and alert, actively thinking, solving problems, navigating the world, the brain produces predominantly beta waves, fast, small, irregular, buzzing with the energy of waking thought. When we are relaxed but still awake, eyes perhaps closed, body at rest, mind drifting gently, the brain shifts into alpha waves, slower, more rhythmic, with a frequency of around 8 to 12 cycles per second. There is something inherently peaceful about alpha waves. They are associated with states of calm, wakefulness, of meditative relaxation, of the pleasant, unhurried feeling of lying quietly in a warm room on a rainy afternoon as we cross the threshold into light sleep, into the first stages of non-REM. The brain transitions through theta waves, slower still, with a frequency of 4 to 8 cycles per second. Theta waves are associated with creativity, with the hypnagogic state, that beautiful, strange place between waking and sleeping, where images and sounds and fragments of thought can appear with a dreamlike quality, unbidden and surprising. The state where great ideas sometimes arrive, where solutions to long-held problems suddenly present themselves, where the mind is loose enough and free enough to make connections it would never make in the focused brightness of ordinary waking thought. And then, in deep sleep, come the delta waves, those vast, slow waves we spoke of earlier, moving at only 1 to 4 cycles per second, as slow and as deep as the breath of something enormous, the brain sinking into a rhythm that is, of its nature, profoundly restful, profoundly restorative, profoundly still. During REM sleep, the brain wave pattern shifts again, back to something resembling the faster frequencies of waking, which is one of the reasons early sleep researchers were so puzzled by it. They saw a brain that looked, by its electrical activity, almost awake, and yet the person was clearly, deeply, unmistakably asleep and dreaming. This paradox is why REM sleep is sometimes called paradoxical sleep, a name that captures rather perfectly. The strange dual nature of this state, which is simultaneously the most vivid and the most unconscious thing the brain does. There is a particular pattern of brain activity that occurs during the transition from waking to sleep, a pattern that researchers have found deeply fascinating. Called hypnic jerks or sleep starts, it manifests as a sudden, involuntary muscle jerk, a sensation of falling or stumbling or being startled. That occurs just as consciousness is beginning to release its hold. It is extremely common, almost universal, and entirely harmless, but it has the peculiar effect of briefly returning the person to waking, as though the brain, in the very act of letting go, momentarily tightens its grip. There is still no definitive explanation for hypnic jerks. Some researchers believe they are a remnant of our evolutionary past, a reflex inherited from our primate ancestors, who slept in trees and needed a mechanism to prevent them from falling as their muscles relaxed into sleep. Others believe it is simply a byproduct of the complex neural reorganization that happens as the brain transitions between states. Whatever their origin, they are a reminder of how intricate and how beautifully calibrated the process of falling asleep actually is. Not a simple dimming of the lights, but a careful, multi-stage choreography of electrical activity and neurochemical change. No. You are moving through that choreography right now, or will be soon, as the waves of your waking brain gradually, gently, beautifully, slow, transitioning from the quick brightness of beta, through the peaceful ease of alpha, down through the creative softness of theta, and into the deep, quiet, restorative embrace of sleep, hormones of the night, melatonin, and the sleep-wake cycle. Queen. There is a tiny gland at the center of your brain, about the size of a grain of rice, nestled deep in the middle of the brain between the two hemispheres, called the pineal gland. And every evening, as the light fades and the world grows dark, this small and quietly extraordinary gland begins to produce a chemical that your body has been producing every night of your life, a chemical called melatonin. Melatonin is sometimes called the hormone of darkness because it is produced not in response to any alarm or conscious decision, but simply in response to the absence of light. As the eyes detect that daylight is fading, as the sky shifts from the bright clarity of afternoon through the golden warmth of evening into the deepening blue of dusk, signals travel from the retina to a tiny cluster of neurons in the hypothalamus lumis called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. which is, despite its formidable name, a very small and very elegant biological clock, the master timekeeper of the body. This clock, which runs on a cycle of approximately 24 hours, synchronized each day by the light that enters the eyes, signals the pineal gland to begin releasing melatonin. And as melatonin enters the bloodstream, the body begins, very gradually and very gently, to prepare for sleep. Core body temperature begins to drop. Alertness softens. The eyelids grow heavy. The mind becomes quieter. The world grows a little less insistent. Melatonin does not cause sleep directly. It is not a sedative in the way that sleep medications are. It is more like a signal, a quiet announcement to every cell in the body. That night has arrived, that it is time to slow down, to turn inward, to begin the long and gentle process of rest and restoration that the darkness makes possible. It is a chemical poem about evening, a molecular invitation to let go. For melatonin production is exquisitely sensitive to light, particularly blue light, the short wavelength light that is abundant in daylight and also in the screens of the phones and computers and televisions that many of us spend our evenings looking at. Even relatively dim blue light in the evening hours can suppress melatonin production and delay the onset of sleep, which is one of the reasons that sleep researchers consistently recommend creating a gentle, warm, dim environment in the hour or two before bed, not as a rule to follow dutifully, but as a kindness to offer to this small grain of rice-sized part of your brain that is trying faithfully every single evening to do its quiet and important work. But melatonin is only one part of the larger story of the circadian rhythm, the body's daily cycle, which governs not just sleep and waking, but nearly every physiological process in the body, or hormone levels, body temperature, blood pressure, immune activity, digestion, cell division. All of these follow a circadian rhythm, all of them rising and falling in patterns that are coordinated with the cycle of day and night. The body is, in a very real sense, a time-sensitive organism, one that is deeply attuned to the passage of the sun across the sky. Even after thousands of years of living indoors under artificial light in the time zones of modernity, melatonin does not cause sleep directly. It is not a sedative in the way that sleep medications are. It is more like a signal, a quiet announcement to every cell in the body. That night has arrived, that it is time to slow down, to turn inward, to begin the long and gentle process of rest and restoration that the darkness makes possible. It is a chemical poem about evening, a molecular invitation to let go. For melatonin production is exquisitely sensitive to light, particularly blue light, the short wavelength light that is abundant in daylight and also in the screens of the phones and computers and televisions that many of us spend our evenings looking at. Even relatively dim blue light in the evening hours can suppress melatonin production and delay the onset of sleep, which is one of the reasons that sleep researchers consistently recommend creating a gentle, warm, dim environment in the hour or two before bed, not as a rule to follow dutifully, but as a kindness to offer to this small grain of rice-sized part of your brain that is trying faithfully every single evening to do its quiet and important work. But melatonin is only one part of the larger story of the circadian rhythm, the body's daily cycle, which governs not just sleep and waking, but nearly every physiological process in the body, or hormone levels, body temperature, blood pressure, immune activity, digestion, cell division. All of these follow a circadian rhythm, all of them rising and falling in patterns that are coordinated with the cycle of day and night. The body is, in a very real sense, a time-sensitive organism, one that is deeply attuned to the passage of the sun across the sky. Even after thousands of years of living indoors under artificial light in the time zones of modernity, cortisol, the hormone often associated with stress, but which also plays a crucial role in the normal regulation of energy and alertness, follows its own circadian curve. It is lowest during the hours of deep sleep, rises gradually in the early morning, peaks shortly after waking, and then declines slowly across the day. This morning cortisol rise is actually a helpful and gentle thing, a kind of natural alarm call from within the body, preparing you to meet the day. It is only when cortisol remains chronically elevated, as it does in states of sustained stress or anxiety, that it becomes disruptive to sleep and to well-being. Growth hormone, as we touched on earlier, is released predominantly during the first few hours of sleep, peaking during those deep, slow wave stages that arrive early in the night. Serotonin, the neurotransmitter associated with mood and well-being, is produced during waking and serves as a precursor to melatonin, the two chemicals cycling through the body in a gentle, daily alternation, like the alternation of sunlight and moonlight across the turning world. Hey, Asolbu, and all of this is happening in you right now, or will be very soon. The pineal gland releasing its quiet chemical signal, the clock at the center of your brain keeping its ancient and faithful time, your body responding as it always has, as it always will, to the arrival of darkness, preparing itself with such care and such completeness for the rest that the night offers. The hippocampus, keeper of place and time. We have mentioned the hippocampus already. That curved, seahorse-shaped structure deep within the brain that plays such a central role in memory. But it deserves a moment of its own, because it is, in many ways, one of the most remarkable and most intimately human parts of the brain. The hippocampus is essential for what neuroscientists call episodic memory, the memory of events, of experiences, of the specific moments that make up the narrative of a life. Or it is the part of the brain that allows you not merely to know that Paris is the capital of France, but to remember the specific afternoon when you first learned it, the classroom, the light through the window, the voice of the teacher. It is the part of the brain that holds the texture and the feeling and the particularity of experience, not just its abstract content. The hippocampus is also deeply involved in spatial memory, in the mental maps we construct of the places we inhabit and navigate. There is a famous and genuinely charming study of London taxi drivers, conducted by Eleanor Maguire and her colleagues at University College London, which found that the posterior hippocampus, the rear portion of the structure, was measurably larger in experienced taxi drivers than in control subjects, and that the more years a driver had spent navigating the complex geography of London, the more pronounced this difference became. The brain had literally grown in response to the demands placed upon it in precisely the region responsible for the task being performed. This finding is an example of a broader principle called neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to change its structure and its function in response to experience. The brain is not fixed, not static, not finished at some point in development. It is, throughout life, a living and responsive organ, continuously reshaping itself in response to how it is used, what it learns, what it practices, what it experiences. Sleep plays an essential role in this reshaping. During sleep, the connections between neurons, the synaptic links through which information is transmitted, are selectively strengthened and weakened. The connections that have been most active during the day those that carry the most important, most frequently used, most emotionally significant information, are reinforced and consolidated, while other connections, those that carry noise and irrelevance, are gently pruned away, allowing the brain to become not merely larger, but more refined, more precise, more elegantly organized. This process, sometimes called synaptic homeostasis, is thought to explain why the brain requires sleep at all. The waking brain accumulates synaptic connections throughout the day as it learns and adapts and responds to the world wall. And without the pruning and resetting that sleep provides, the system would become overloaded, saturated with connections, unable to distinguish signal from noise, unable to process new information effectively. Sleep, in this view, is not merely rest, but reset, a necessary clearing of the slate that makes each new day of learning possible. There is something almost poignant about this, the idea that forgetting, or at least the selective loosening of certain connections, is not a failure of memory, but a feature of it, that the brain's capacity to remember what matters depends on its capacity to release what doesn't. That clarity is not the absence of letting go, but its product. Hey Eslowo. And so, even in sleep's forgetting, even in the dreams that dissolve at morning, even in the connections that are gently released in the night, there is wisdom, there is purpose, there is care. Your brain is not abandoning you in the darkness. It is tending to you quietly, faithfully, every night. False memories and the dreaming imagination. Memory, for all its extraordinary capacity and complexity, is not a recording device. It is not a camera or a tape recorder or a hard drive. It does not capture the past and preserve it unchanged for future retrieval. It is, instead, something far more active and far more creative than any of those technologies. It is a reconstruction. Every time you remember something, every time you reach back into the past and bring a moment forward into the present, you are not simply playing back a stored file. You are rebuilding it, assembling it from fragments, filling in the gaps, shaping it with everything you now know and feel and believe. And in that reconstruction, the memory is subtly changed, updated, touched by the present moment in ways so small and so automatic that you rarely, if ever, notice them. This is why eyewitness testimony, which feels, from the inside, like the most reliable, kind of evidence has been shown again and again in research to be surprisingly fallible. Why people who have experienced the same event can remember it in radically different ways. Why details that feel absolutely certain can be entirely wrong, not because people are lying, and not because their minds are failing them, but because memory is, by its very nature, a creative act, a constant, ongoing, largely unconscious storytelling. Dreams feed into this in a fascinating way, because the sleeping brain does not clearly distinguish, in some cases, between things that were experienced and things that were imagined, between events that happened and scenarios that were dreamed. Memory researchers have found that people are sometimes unable to tell with certainty whether a specific memory comes from a real event or from a dream, particularly when the dream was vivid and emotionally resonant, and particularly when time has passed since both the dream and the original event. This can occasionally produce what researchers call source monitoring errors, moments when the brain attributes a memory to the wrong source. When a dream memory is misidentified as a real memory, or when a real memory acquires details from a dream. These errors are generally harmless and extremely common, but they reveal something important and rather wonderful about the relationship between dreaming and memory. The two are not separate systems operating independently of each other. They are deeply intertwined, mutually influencing, drawing on the same pools of experience and imagination and feeling. The dreaming brain is, in this sense, a memory machine, but one that runs not on the literal and the factual, but on the associative and the emotional and the symbolic. It takes the raw material of lived experience and transforms it, combines it, reimagines it, allowing the waking self to encounter the events of its own life from new angles, through new lenses, in new combinations, offering perspectives and connections and insights that the rational, daylight mind might never reach on its own. Some of the most celebrated creative breakthroughs in human history have come from dreams. Dmitri Mendeleev reportedly saw the periodic table arranged in his dreams. Paul McCartney woke one morning with the melody of yesterday fully formed in his mind, having heard it in a dream. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein grew from a waking dream. Kekulé discovered the ring structure of benzene after dreaming of a snake eating its own tail. Whatever the exact details of each story, and some have been embellished in the retelling, the underlying phenomenon is real. The dreaming mind makes leaps that the waking mind cannot, and sometimes those leaps carry something back into the daylight that changes everything. Has Elomu, and perhaps this is the deepest gift of Dream's own. Not the vivid adventure, not the strange geography, not even the emotional release, but this, the possibility that in the quiet, private, unconstrained space of sleep, the mind may find something it has been looking for some connection, some understanding, some beauty that was always there but could not quite be reached one, until the world went dark and still, and the dreaming began. Koam fil yul usion, resting at the edge. And here, at the gentle edge of part 1, we pause for a moment in the quiet. We have wandered tonight through some of the most beautiful and most fascinating landscapes that sleep has to offer. We have drifted through the architecture of dreams, through the mystery of why we forget them upon waking, through the patient, invisible work that memory consolidation does every night while we rest well, through the deep, slow, restorative waves of dreamless sleep, through the extraordinary electrical poetry of the dreaming brain, through the chemistry of evening and the ancient clock that ticks at the center of every living thing, and through all of it, through all these facts and findings and wonders, one thing has remained constant and true. Your sleeping mind is not absent. It is not resting in some simple, switched-off way. It is working gently, faithfully, intelligently, on your behalf, tending to the architecture of your memories, healing the tissues of your body, washing the channels of your brain, processing the emotions of your days, weaving stories in the darkness that are yours alone. You are in good hands tonight. Has elaborado your own hands, the hands of a sleeping brain that has been caring for you since the very first night of your life. Part 2 will carry us even deeper into the secret life of the nervous system during sleep, through the slow, gentle repair of neurons, through the hormones and chemicals that make restoration possible, through the quiet intelligence of a body that knows, even when the mind does not, exactly what it needs. But for now, let these facts settle gently around you like a soft blanket. Let your breathing slow. Let your thoughts drift like clouds across a moonlit sky, slow and soft and passing. And as your breathing slows, let these peaceful facts carry you into deep, restful sleep. Hembreh, you can let go now. The universe is gently holding you. Rest deeply, my friend. Dreams happen primarily during a stage of sleep called REM sleep. Your eyes, closed beneath their lids, flicker in the darkness, as though watching a film that only you can see. And here is the wonder. Scientists found that the brain during this state is not quiet at all. It is alive, buzzing, almost indistinguishable from a waking brain. Even as the world goes dark and still around you, your brain is building worlds, painting images, writing stories, using only the quiet electricity of thought.